powered by Riverside.
Welcome to the Real Estate Special. I'm your host, Dan Kiley. This is episode 4. Alongside me is Tom Stelzer. Tom, how's it going on this Sunday night?
Speaking of episode 4, is there an NFL team that is 4-0?
Oh, the Eagles. Go Birds, baby. 4-0. So, big win over the Washington Commanders. These games are going to give me a heart attack. Way too close.
Yeah. I don't know if I can handle any more games as a 30-year-old. That one was a little stressful for me, I'm not going to lie.
Happy belated birthday, by the way. So, Tom, we have a great episode this week. We had Zach Koenigsberg, Misericordia alum. He's a senior mortgage officer. Baby. Yep, he's a senior mortgage officer at Cross Country Mortgage. So I really enjoyed the episode. Zach brought the heat, and we're going to do a kind of a new section before we dive into the episode. What is the real estate special tip of the day? So the special tip of the day.
The special tip of the day is when you listen to the episode with Zach. I thought there was a cool tidbit that he told us. You know, when you're buying your first home with an FHA loan, you can get a single family, a duplex, a triplex, or a quadplex. You do not necessarily only have to get a single family home. So that is our special tip of the day. And pretty interesting, especially to jumpstart your real estate investing career. You can purchase, a duplex right out of the gate with an FHA loan, 3%, 3.5% down, live in one side, rent out the other side, and get your house hacking career started.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed this week's episode. We kind of covered everything from how Zach got started with his family being in the real estate and mortgage industry for over 20, 25 years, and
20 or even 30. You might have said 30 years.
Might have said 30 years, and then talking about credit scores and FHA loans. There's a bunch of different things that we talk about and cover. I don't think the full 40 minutes was enough, but without further ado,
we'll definitely have to get Zach back on here in the future.
I think we'll have a part 2 with Zach Koenigsberg, and without further ado, feel free to enjoy the show. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll let Zach and ourselves take it away. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Special. We're here with Tom Stelzer, my co-host, and we have a special guest on. We have a senior mortgage officer from Cross Country Mortgage, Zach Koenigsberg, out of the DFW area. Zach, how's it going today?
Doing good, guys. How you doing?
Doing well. We it's a Sunday afternoon, so the Eagles got a big win. It was a little too close for comfort, but 4-0 is 4-0, so can't really complain.
That's true.
Tom, how's it going over there? Happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you. Great to turn 30 and have the Eagles win 2 games in the same week. Close games, but I'll take it. And looking forward to Zach's Jets and maybe beating Taylor Swift tonight. The Chiefs.
Man.
So Zach, before we dive in, do you have a prediction for the Taylor Swift-led Kansas City Chiefs?
I'm going to stay 41-17 Chiefs. I think it's going to be a blowout.
Wow. Okay,
I think the Chiefs' defense is actually really good. A lot of people, I don't think, give their defense credit, and their defense this year has been winning them a lot of games. So,
Totally agree. So Zach, we started this podcast about a month and a half ago, and we want to kind of dive into the real estate market. So before we really dive in and ask you some hard-hitting questions, tell us a little bit about your background, how you got started in the mortgage and real estate industry, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Yeah, so as you guys know, I was a business major at Misericordia, had a sequence in management. My father has been in the mortgage industry for 30 plus years. My mom has been in the industry on the real estate side for about 25 at a high level for each of them. So I did internships with them since I was 14, 15 years old. I always told myself I was never going to get into it. This is where I am today. But overall, I love the sales aspect. And, as I was interning, I went through, there was different milestones, different departments they put me in. I even started in the mailroom. So I started low, made it to the top, I would like to say. But I did the funding department. I looked at processing, saw a little bit of the servicing side. Not actually like doing it full time, but just seeing the workers. And this is like 2015 to 2019, as we were in college during winter breaks, summer breaks, just going in and, being in the atmosphere. And then after COVID, obviously, a lot of people just work from home now, but being on the sales side, going out, doing phone calls every single day, talking to customers like yourself, that's the best part. So, learning something new every day. I don't know everything, but I'd like to say every single day I try to learn something new in this industry.
So the first question I have, you mentioned that throughout college you were, doing it during winter breaks, summer breaks, everything like that. And then COVID hits. So what's been the biggest difference from that 2015 to 2019 span to when 2020 rolls around and we're all locked down and, everybody's hunkered down because of COVID? What was the biggest difference you saw in the market or the mortgage industry in general?
It was crazy too, because a lot of people had to, like, the building I was in, like, different businesses were moving out. And I'm like, where's the industry headed? Right. I mean, not even saying the political side, just overall, obviously rates being so low. I mean, business was just crazy. I think it was a great time to be in the mortgage industry to capitalize on that and learn from it. Because especially with some of the loan officers I've worked with, they're top tier, just learning from them and, refinancing their clients, helping them out with that as a sales assistant and, some of my own, and seeing the true benefit from people that were holding onto their mortgages for so long. They didn't refinance or anything for 10 years and they had all this equity because the property values were skyrocketing and now rates were in the 2-3% range, on a 30-year fix, wherever it was. Just seeing that overall benefit. And customers, pulling out $30,000 to $50,000, build that dream pool that they wanted or pull it out to go buy another home. It was exciting. I think that was a great time in the industry. But I definitely learned a lot. So that was a cool part.
And I got a testament to Zach during that time. I actually hit him up and, I had a loan officer I've been using for a while and I knew Zach kind of got into the industry. So I figured I'd give him a shot. And if people don't know, typically, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Zach, but when you go to apply for a loan, I think you can apply to 3 different companies, kind of, sort of, and like not necessarily have it affect your credit when you're at least searching for a loan. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think your case that you were talking to a local bank or whatever, and it was within a certain time frame. So we weren't really worried about that, but obviously, it didn't affect anything. So.
No, yeah. So typically, I think within 30 days, you can reach out to a couple different officers. And I wanted to give Zach a shot. And obviously, I was already using somebody else. But anyway, Zach came in and basically said, hey, I can get you a 30-day close. And his interest rate was better than the rate I was getting with my previous loan officer. And so I kind of brought that up to the other guy's attention. He's like, there's no way this guy can close in 30 days during this time frame. Everybody's so busy. There's no way the rate he's giving you is accurate. There must be some hidden fees in there. And, at the end of the day, Zach came through with everything that he promised. We closed, I think, in like 28 days, which was record time, especially during COVID. And that's something you got to do to differentiate yourself in tough times like that. Go above and beyond. And Zach did that.
That's awesome. So we kind of talked about during COVID, the interest rates being 2-3%, some maybe even lower. Just a quick story is like back at my parents' house, both neighbors sold during COVID and it's like 70, 80 grand over asking price. And they went and bought their dream vacation home. They retired, everything like that, because they're waiving inspections and, the interest rates were so low. So it was really the perfect time to buy was during the pandemic. And now a lot of, probably our viewers and consumers are looking at the interest rates now where it's 7-8%. And Tom, we touched on this last episode where it's like, back in the 80s and 90s, it was like 13-14%. So this is, relatively speaking, it's still somewhat low. So what's some misconceptions about mortgage loans or the home buying process that you see? And what would be some advice that you'd give some of the people out there that are like, I'm just going to wait till the interest rates drop down to 5 or 6%?
That's a good question. I get it a lot. I think the biggest one, which you guys probably know, is I have buyers from kids we went to school with, all around our age group, thinking still you have to put 20% down to buy a home, which you can put 20% down, but there's other avenues to get you in that home. And with a lot of my clients, even with Stelzer, you show them the breakdown, right? You show like, hey, you can put as low as 3 to 3.5%, depending on the loan program, you're going conventional or FHA, or 5% or 10%, and show them with the MI and the mortgage insurance, kind of just breaking them through that, just the full breakdown. And then I think another one would be people holding out now are missing out on that appreciation value, right? So right now we're in a market, unlike 2019, 2020, where there was maybe some states still, but there was 20 to 30 to 50 to 60 offers on homes. People weren't even going to go view the homes. They lived in California. They were coming to Texas. They didn't even go walk through. They made an offer, blind offer. Like, yeah, this is the home. That's the market we're in. I mean, when I bought my house, luckily, I think I was going against maybe a few others. But now, yes, rates are a little higher. But with that refinance opportunity down the road and, getting into this home now, if you wait and then once rates drop, the house for 500, it's not going to be 500,000. You're going to go against other people. The seller's going to take, if it's a cash offer, it's a finance offer, like what would I do? There's going to be a bidding war, right? And that could happen now, depending on the home. I'm not saying it doesn't happen now. But I think people need to, we have a lot of cool tools, especially in my company, the third-party stuff that we use, rent to own calculators, just seeing, hey, this is where you're at financially, doesn't make sense for you. Just because you have all that money saved away, maybe it isn't the right time to buy for you. But let's walk through it, right? Because, hey, you're missing out on this appreciation value within the next year, because you're basing it off of the 7% interest rate or whatever you said, 8% interest rate. But if you're comfortable with this payment now, then why not just talk about it? Let's just start the process, right? You're not binded by any means. So,
gotcha. Yeah. No, I think it's something that we've touched on before. Is it's kind of like the stock market in a sense. Everybody's trying to time the market, where once interest rates drop, down to that say 5%, 5 or low 6s, it's going to be way more competitive than what it is right now. I feel like everyone's just sitting here waiting for that opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, there's cool. And like I said, with, 2-1 buy downs, 3-2-1 buy downs, there's avenues, seller credits to help buy the rate down. There's cool stuff in this market that, especially, if you walk through with the lender, I would always recommend to get pre-approved first before you start looking at homes, because, if you're looking at $500,000 homes, you're only truly approved for $300,000. You're going to be a little bit upset, right? So, absolutely. But that's
in some realtors. I think that's almost mandatory in some markets. At least when I was looking for homes most recently, I think really since COVID, they made it mandatory to have a pre-approval.
Sometimes I know some of my clients, I get last minute. They're like, hey, my realtor, maybe it was a family friend. They went to go look at a house. I think it's to each his own. I mean, I don't know, but.
So when somebody needs a pre-approval, about how long, they reach out to you, hey, Zach, I'm looking to get a home, about how long does that process take, from start to finish to get a pre-approval?
So if the customer, it's a great question. If the customer gets me their documentation within the same day, I could pump it out the same day or the next morning.
I guess we could get it into you mentioned the 3-2-1 buy down option. What's that for people that don't know? So if you want to touch on that quick.
Yeah, and then what I'll do too is I'll send you guys, and eventually if I come on again or whatever, and you want to put as an example on your page, I can send you a flyer breakdown of estimated payment, how that works. But just for basic terms, in today's market, say if we're doing a 2-1 buy down, rates are 7%. You say we lock at 7%. Their first payment for the first year will start at 5, then the 6, then you end at 7. So it's kind of putting them in a spot where you still qualify for the higher rate, but as your mortgage payment starts, we'll get into the cost breakdown on, I can show you that on the later time, because just going over the principal and interest and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
But, helping that buyer out, that because it's so funny when I talk to my buyers, and my partner and boss did it really well. It's like you go into a realtor office and everyone's like, I don't have any clients right now. They're worried about the rates. And if you say, what if I can get your client 5% interest rate right now? They all raise their hands. You have to explain the terms, But you can always say the first year they go to 5, then that second year you're in the 6%. If there's a refinance opportunity, you get at that 2-1 buy down, and now you're at a 30-year fix at wherever the rates are at. So learning those tools, taking advantage of seller credits, especially if the seller can cover all that cost for you, that's phenomenal.
Gotcha.
So not to call you out on your math skills, but let's talk about a first-time home buyer. Let's say they're trying to buy a house for around $200,000. And they want to put like 3 to 5% down. What would a guesstimate be of what that down payment would look like? Yes, I think a common misconception is that down payment is like, $40,000. And I think people don't realize that it actually can be significantly less.
Yeah, I mean, if you go with just a 3% down option, obviously you'd be around $6,000. But what I like to do too, and if you were going to go FHA, you just do 3.5% down off the purchase price. But it's really cool to see. Like, that's a great question, but going with the 3%, 3.5%, 5% down conventional, whatever that option is, seeing how little the payment difference really is, because everyone's like, I need to throw so much toward the principal to lower my monthly payment. And I'm like, all right, let's pump the brakes. I said, let's look at it at the lowest option, obviously, depending on where they stand, if we can go that route, and say, does this make sense for you now? Because eventually down the road, you're going to have a lot of equity. You could always refinance, get out of the PMI or whatever you're currently in within that loan. But yeah, I mean, like I said before, it is the biggest misconception is, putting that big chunk down.
Yeah, so there you have it. I mean, Zach's saying you can get a house, $200,000 home for around $6,000 down. I mean, that's just the down payment, and then closing costs are what, I guesstimate like $5,000 to $8,000, and just
it would depend, because like I said, what we have is you have obviously like the prepaids for tax and insurance, you have the title fee. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into that as well. But yeah, I mean, it was another 10 to 15. And then, if we could structure a way with your agent to get a seller credit, that could help out with the closing costs as well.
So almost under $20,000 though. I mean, in
some cases too. And also there are down payment assistance programs as well. So that's another option for first-time home buyers.
So I feel like the location plays a big part in that. And like, for example, I know from Pennsylvania to Texas, there's a different home buying process, and it's different in each market typically. The question that I had, so you mentioned seller credit, seller assistance.
Yes.
How often do you have clients and their real estate agent actually get seller credits? Because that's something that I haven't heard of before we started talking about it, I'd say a month ago.
Yeah, I would say now in this market, I think before when rates were a little lower, it was more so for the actual closing cost itself. But now it's, hey, if we can get $10,000 or $15,000, depending on if it's conventional FHA, whatever the loan product is, there is a max cap of the percentage back to the buyer from the seller. But say for conventional, you can go, I think it's 3% contribution, and FHA is 6%, I believe. So depending on whatever the purchase price is, that can help toward buying down the rate.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Understood. So if you don't mind, kind of walk us through, like for a first-time home buyer, walk us through maybe from start to finish, like what that looks like, just so people can kind of paint a picture in their mind. And I know I've had family friends where it's like, where they talk about their credit score, and and how that's impacted by trying to secure a mortgage.
Yeah, so you're talking about the overall qualification process in regard to credit, or just from A to Z and how they start, how they apply, and go from there?
Let's just go A to Z, like trying to get pre-approved to actually closing on a property.
Perfect. I can start with that. So we would send you our application. I like to have a preliminary call with my clients first to kind of go over, hey, what is your budget? How much do you have saved? Are you a W-2? Are you 1099? How long have you been working there? Where do you think your credit is currently? And then they would give me the information. I kind of do some notes. They'd fill out the application. They would upload their, say, 2 years of tax returns, 2 years W-2s, a month full of pay stubs, 2 to 3 months of bank statements, or whatever account they'd be using for closing costs. If it's a gift from a family member or whatever, just I need to lay it out so my team knows how to structure the loan before we send it to underwriting. That process is pretty quick, as you guys know. when you have the right people around, they can, if we're missing something, we give you a call, we email you, say, hey, we still need this pay stub from, 10:15 to 10:30, right? So after that process, we would evaluate that. We would run our automated underwriting system. And then if everything looks good on our end, we would obviously assess your credit. That's beforehand. And that would be the pre-approval status. So I'd say, hey, talk with your agent, talk to you, Dan, talk to Stelzer, say, hey, you guys are pre-approved. Congrats. This purchase price, and then we can go over monthly payment, and then you can kind of start the house search.
Gotcha. So it's kind of establishing a budget first and making sure that they can actually pay the monthly payment with like a, having a W-2 and having pay stubs, you can't just be like, here's a briefcase full of cash, right? And just be like,
it has to be sourced for sure.
Gotcha.
Going to the credit piece that you were talking about. So when we review the credit, there's a lot that goes into it, like if it's impacting the credit score or for the interest rate, if it's what kind of loan program it is, if it's a condominium, single family residence, just like I said, loan to value, what I just said. And then we can kind of assess that to see what best fits that client for which program.
Which is more important? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. No, I'm good.
What's more important between your credit score and your debt to income ratio?
Really good question. I would say it kind of weighs into both. I would say kind of an A/B answer, because depending on what your credit score comes back at, we can review like your current liabilities. If it's student loans, you have a car payment. We can see if there's missed payments, and then that will reflect obviously the DTI, because whatever income you have, if it's W-2, we have to weigh like your debt to income ratio. So that's kind of how I would say it. Like
they're both pretty important.
Both very important. And then once we kind of evaluate what your debt to income ratio is, where your credit score is at, we even have tools to help. We have simulators that, hey, if you follow these instructions, here's the probability of enhancing, these 3 scores, and kind of helping that buyer that thought maybe they talked to another lender that they couldn't get pre-approved now, maybe putting them in the right direction later on, or saying, hey, we actually fit in this box, but we have to do this.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have a family member who opened up a credit card at Boscov's, so department store, because he was getting $150 off a suit for a funeral, and he forgot to make the payment on it throughout the credit card, and it dropped his credit score by 60 points. So it messed up his pre-approval process for a few months before he was able to fix it and get back on the right track. So credit score is pretty important when it comes to getting pre-approved and everything like that.
Do you do any sort of like credit repair up front with your customers, Zach? I mean, say somebody comes up to you and they kind of don't have the best credit. Is that something you kind of dive deep in with them and, say, hey, if you pay this off, it might help your debt to income or your credit out a little bit better?
Yeah. So like, depending on what the score is, we do have tools to help you. Like I said, we're not credit experts by any means, but we do have tools to help you things. Because sometimes if you go consult with a credit expert, it could be really expensive for the person. Can't throw out quotes out there. I'm not really sure what they charge, but probably to each his own what company it is. But yes, like say, hey, if you pay this card down from 175 off, or take you off as an authorized user, that could enhance your credit, like things like that outside the box. And you provide different bureaus to the client, say, hey, and it'll show the probability. Obviously, if they're at like a 602, I'm not saying you're going to get an 805 tomorrow. Like, you have to be realistic, look at the probability, but let's get you into a range where it's going to help you achieve a better interest rate and secure the mortgage, right? And I think people want to buy now, and agents, they push like, I need this client approved by tomorrow. That's great, me too, but we need to work with them, be patient with them. And then we go down the process with them. They're going to say, wow, they held my hand. And maybe 2 years, 3 years down the road, they come back for the next one. They refer you to your family. Now you have a lifelong client.
Yeah, and it's really important because I know somebody, I won't put his name out here, but he knows that I'm talking about him. And he went to get approved for a loan. And the person that was giving him advice was basically, his loan officer was telling him he needs to pay off his student loans. So put like an extra 10 grand towards student loans. And his credit score never went up. It didn't help anything out. And meanwhile, I think he had a couple credit cards. that weren't paid off. And I mean, he easily could have taken that 10 grand and paid off the credit cards. So we met with a different loan officer a little bit later, and they recommended paying off some credit cards. And the loan that he was trying to get, I think he needed like a 650. And the second he paid off the credit cards, went from 620 to 665, gets approved for the loan, everything works smoothly. So it is really important, somebody in your position, to give that really good advice.
Yeah, I think it's like I said, it's not an overnight kind of thing, but if they're willing to work with you and be realistic and say, hey, maybe they don't have the money to pay down the cards now. It's like, hey, this is what we can do. And sometimes if they're a first time home buyer, having a co-signer, if their family wants to help them achieve it, and they can just go that route. I like to just really think outside the box and really give all my effort into pre-approving everybody that I can until I'm like, hey, we can't right now, but down the road we need to do this. So.
Isn't it the coolest thing getting first-time home buyers into loans?
Is the coolest thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just really rewarding, especially working with like friends like you guys. It's just cool to see, like, obviously it sucks we're all getting old, but
we were just talking about that. Yeah.
We were just talking about that. But, building a real estate portfolio and just, it's so cool. And then just the benefits of being a homeowner, as you guys know, and just, seeing, especially when they get married or have families and you see the home and they post it on Instagram or Facebook, you're like, I help them out. You know what I mean? So it's cool. But obviously building your network of realtors and, insurance agents, title people, just it's really rewarding for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Real quick, going back to the FHA loan and how often do you have people going down that route? I guess it's a case by case basis, but I was curious to see what percentage do people go 3.5% FHA loan compared to, back in the day, it was 20% down. You got to take all your savings and throw it at this down payment to get a house, right?
I would say it just depends, especially looking at their overall file, seeing what the debt to income ratio is, looking at both options. Like, if it's conventional, we can go the 3% down route, and the mortgage insurance is cheaper. I evaluate all options, right? Say, hey, the down payment's not much differently, but usually if they fit in the box, they go conventional. I'm like, hey, we can go this route. And then if they say, hey, do you want to get the 5% down conventional, or 3% down, or 10% down, 20% down, kind of just weighing out the options. I would say with first-time home buyers, with my clients at least, probably 50-50 right now, just because, maybe they don't have that extra income that they thought they were going to have by the end of the year. And you can always refinance from an FHA loan too, right? To a conventional loan or to another FHA. So I think they're both great products. I really do.
Gotcha.
And Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think last time we talked, you haven't talked too much about this, but just to your own personal investing story. I mean, I know you purchased a home that you're currently living at now, but did you say that you're going to buy a rental property, or you're looking to buy a rental property in the future, or where's your investing story?
So yeah, I did. I bought a home during COVID, so 2020, 2019, 2020, I think July. So I've been in it for almost 3 years, which is crazy. So it's insane.
Time flies, baby.
Over 3 years, yeah. And just seeing the equity and just people on my street selling, it's been insane. But yeah, I definitely want to rent this house out eventually. Obviously planning a wedding and doing things like that can got to prioritize that right now. But yeah, I would love to rent this one out, go buy another property, repeat, live in it for 1 year, or kind of what you did, Stelz, you're near university, things like that. I kind of want to dip into different types of the market, but I would love to have another few properties, before I'm 30. That'd be the goal.
Yeah, it gets cool. It gets tough when you get a little bit older, you have a family, you don't necessarily want to move as much. So, I know that was something that, hit Sarah and I pretty hard, as I would, go live in a shack and rent out some bedrooms. And Sarah would tell me, well, we kind of need to get a place where we can live and, things of that nature. So we finally got our dream house here in Florida. We plan on living here for a long time and looking to buy more rentals, to your point, around the university. That's worked out really, really well. So,
Zach, I think that's awesome, trying to gain more properties before you're 30. When do you turn 30? Do you have time, or is it creeping up?
Do I have time? I just turned 28, so I think I have time. Maybe.
Oh yeah,
maybe
you got a couple years.
Years there. If I could get one more property, that'd be great too. I mean, I know it's slow and steady, but just overall, just seeing the benefits of, seeing the appreciation of properties and, later on and, having tenants or selling it when just the property value is right for you. And, your kids go to college, you want to sell your house. Hey, you got $200,000 for the equity. Hey, there you go.
You can't talk about this too much, Zach, because, probably, client, vendor responsibilities that you can't speak about. But what about the people that you do work with, typically the ones with the higher net worths? Do you find that they typically own property, or do you find they typically don't own property? Just out of curiosity.
It's kind of hit or miss. I would say some of my clients, a lot of them, even like the older ones, some of them can rent. They just travel so much, or they do own a lot of properties, or maybe they own commercial real estate, which is not what I do. I do the residential side. But yeah, I mean, I've seen portfolios where they own, and I have to literally get 15 mortgage statements. So, I mean, like it's crazy. So I mean, it teaches them. But there's a lot of young clients like yourself, or people went to school with, or people I went to high school with that are, them and their families have bought, townhomes or things like that, or just it's crazy. But the growth in real estate is unreal, especially being from New Jersey now to Texas, and now you're in Florida. It's amazing.
So I know the way the market is right now. How often are you seeing people refinance, or do you see people holding off? And can you share some tips for individuals that are looking to refinance to potentially pull equity out of, their property that they have if it appreciated in value, and different things among that nature?
Yeah, I would say right now, because a lot of people are in a lot of credit card debt, right? So they don't like to admit it, but they're like, hey, I have this 2.75% interest rate, 3%. I'm drowning in these 19% credit cards I have with $40 to $50 to $6,000 balances. I'm like, hey, why don't we do a cash out refinance, pay off those credit cards, put you in a better financial situation. But people want to stay in that low percentage, but hey, that interest rate that you're holding right now in your primary home, it's going to change. But financially, your budget, it's going to help you long term, because look, we're paying off all these cards for you. Yeah, your mortgage payment's going to go up, but you're going to be in a way better financial position. So I would say that's a pretty prominent one now. And obviously, as rates drop, you'll see rate and term just dropping it, that being a benefit for the borrower. But I would say right now, the cash out refinance is just because they have the equity levels so high. If they want to go do things, like I said, build a pool, buy another property, that's something they can do. Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it makes sense from a financial perspective of like, listen, your interest rate's going to go up to 7.5%, but like you're not paying the interest on your credit card of like 26. Sometimes I've seen people with interest rates of like 26%. It's insane. So yeah. I was just curious about that. Yeah. Let's see, Tom, and any other questions that you have for Zach?
Yeah, so another way to take out some equity in a property is a home equity line of credit, right, Zach? Can you talk to us a little bit about what a home equity line of credit is for those people that are, instead of doing a cash out refinance?
Yeah, so essentially you would just get like a local appraiser. I'm not sure if you've done it, Tom, but they'd come to the property, and instead of changing like their first loan, it'd be essentially like another one that they could tap into. The payments wouldn't start until you actually start using some of that money. But depending who it is, if it's cross country, whoever you're looking at, you would take out a certain amount, see it, if you're at the equity level to do so, and then we go over what the payments would look like. But yes, you could use that money, but you have to pay it back, right, with interest, right? Yeah, so it's not like, oh, I have this money, it's free. So I think it's just another option. But
nothing's free.
Nothing's free.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite way, and Dan's favorite way too, to use a home equity line of credit is really use it for an additional investment. If you can pull out $50,000 from a house, use that for a down payment of another house, do some renovations, and then kind of do a cash out refinance on that property to pay off your home equity line of credit. We find that that's a good strategy to use. You really don't want to be taking out home equity line of credits without ways to pay them back, because that's just almost another form of credit card debt, which is not necessarily what you want to be in. But to your point right now, a lot of our country is in a lot of debt. So,
yeah, I think, like I said, both options, depending on like what you want to do. I don't think just refinancing your house right now just to get the money. Like, I think there should be an overall plan. And that's why you need to talk to like a mortgage professional to say, hey, like, I'm not saying raise your interest rate for no apparent reason to pull that cash out just to put in your savings, if that's what you want to do. But let's walk through it, right? Let's see what your financial goals are. if you want to buy a property, if you want to do renovations to your home. Let's talk. What's even make sense for you to raise your payment? Just hopefully it's not for no reason.
Yeah, and so I saw your post a couple of days ago about a really cool loan program that I thought was pretty absurd. You want to touch base on that? The 15% down, no PMI, which is huge.
Yeah, so essentially now CCM offers a product where you do not need to put 20% down to cancel out that mortgage insurance. So it's still a bigger down payment than 3.5 to the 3% down, but it definitely helps out, especially with you guys if you're real estate investors and you're like, hey, I want to do this. It saves you a little more money than you originally probably thought of.
Yeah, gotcha. I mean, PMI can be anywhere from like $80 to $150, give or take.
Depending, yeah. I mean, it could be a few $100s, honestly.
Yeah, so getting that eaten up and not having to put the full 20% down, that can still be a solid $10,000+ savings in your pocket, plus lower your monthly payment. So, pretty cool product to have that flexibility that CCM is offering.
Yeah. So Zach, real quick, this is a question that I asked Tom on our first episode. Okay. If you had $20,000, would you rather invest it in the stock market or real estate? And give us a reason why.
I would say real estate because I've just seen the appreciation value of my own home, and another $20,000. Like I said, I just think that'd be great for a down payment, or depending what you want to do. I think stock market's great. I think to each his own if you follow it very closely. I'm in mortgages, so I'm looking at houses all the time. So I would personally say real estate. If I have that extra $20,000.
I think Tom and I agree on that, just because the return on investment, you can multiply it, 6-7 times instead of waiting for 30 years until you retire. It's a quicker path to financial freedom at the end of the day.
I don't think there's any question. Real estate's the best way to grow your wealth, So if you can put 20 grand into real estate, you're going to grow that 20 grand a lot quicker, a lot faster than you are if you put it in the stock market. Unless if you get lucky with a stock and it goes up 100%, you're really, able to make a lot more money in the real estate market. At least from what I've seen so far. Very true. So Zach, I have one other question for you that I'm surprised I didn't get to yet. It's probably my favorite question to ask you that I want to learn more about. And I think, we try to get this podcast towards people that aren't buying rental properties or don't have them. We think the number one thing people can do is just buy their first rental property. Yeah. And so when people are trying to buy their first rental property, is there ways that they can buy? They don't just have to buy single family homes, right? They can buy a duplex, a triplex, and maybe even a quadplex with some of the first home owner or FHA loan programs. Or can you talk about what they can purchase?
Yeah. So you're saying if their long-term plan is to invest and they want to start off as a single family residence for them to live in?
Well, I'm saying it doesn't have to be a single family, right? They can also buy a duplex, a triplex, or a quadplex for their first home.
Correct. Yeah. So essentially, if they wanted to do a duplex, they could buy it. And sometimes if there's a renter on the other half already, that's cool because you're living on one side and they just stay there and it contributes toward your mortgage, right? So that is a cool thing. But obviously, once they live in there, if they put in the minimum down payment percentage, living there for 1 year, and a lot of customers that we've had and probably guys that you've known, they live in it for 1 year and then they leave. Then they go rent out the house that they were in and, rinse and repeat. So, or they can stay there, right? I mean, there's no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and I just bring that up because in my opinion, that's the best way that you can really grow your wealth, especially if you're younger, you're single, maybe you're just dating, but you're not, married with puppy dogs and things like that and trying to, have a certain level of life that you're stuck with. But if you can, buy a duplex or a triplex as your first home and rent out the other rooms, I mean, you're pretty close to living for free, letting other people pay down your mortgage. You live there for a year, you can move out. House hacking is kind of what it's called, but that's one of the best ways to really exponentially grow your wealth, at a young age. And so, you can utilize people like Zach and just get a traditional mortgage on some of these investment properties right out the gate. And I think that's the best way for a lot of people to get started.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree to your point. Just the biggest thing, and this is something that we've talked about, Tom, is trying to find a duplex, triplex, or quadplex. Out there in the market right now, the inventory is a little low, and there's a lot of other people that are trying to hop on deals like that. So it's very competitive. But nonetheless, sure. I totally agree with the house hacking. And like worst case scenario, you go and try and buy a, say a 4-bedroom house, and depending on what the floor plan looks like, you could rent out 1 or 2 other rooms, pays down your monthly payment at the end of the day. So that's something that I'm thinking about doing, especially for the new year. So that's a good point, Tom.
Just trying to beat that, point home to as many people as I can. Maybe it'll get through Dan's thick skull here one of these days.
Maybe.
He's ready. He'll pull a trigger soon.
Yeah.
And I get it. I'm making fun of Dan, but he does plan on buying a property here soon. And if he can't get a duplex or a triplex, which he's saying is not there, and he can't find one, but he still does plan on purchasing a home and possibly renting out some bedrooms there to, help get some, of his mortgage paid. So it's a very good idea.
So Zach, where can people find you? Like on Instagram, LinkedIn, an email, whatever, so people can, reach out to you if they have questions or they want to get started with the home buying process.
Yeah, so they can reach me. I have a new Instagram called Call ZK Today. It has my website on there, has my email, phone number. And then I have my CCM website, my CCM email, Zachary.Koenigsberg@CCM.com. And you guys can obviously drop the phone number of mine. It's just my mobile number. They can call me anytime. And, here to help. It's cross-country service all 50 states. So if you have a friend or their realtor, we can help assist them. So any of those would work for sure.
And Zach's great. Just another testament to him. Anytime I call him, even if it's not really for a deal or an opportunity with him, I've called him with my brother-in-law on the phone. I'm like, let's just call Zach. I think he'll answer, and I think he'll give us the answer that we want to know. And Zach literally always picks up the phone, always responsive, and always gives really detailed answers. So, Zach's a great guy for you guys to reach out to.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So, Zach, can't thank you enough for joining. Last thing that we have is, will the Jets squeak out a win tonight? Sunday night against the Chiefs? Like, come on. We trust in Zach Wilson or what?
I don't know. I mean, we beat. All I'm going to say is, I say it all the time, we beat the Bills, right? So, I mean, our defense. I think our defense is elite. We got some good backs. I think Zaxton has had a lot. So, see how the play calling is tonight against arguably the best team in the league. I mean, previous champion. So, let's Taylor Swift will be there. We'll see. Anything's possible.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Zach, thanks for the time. Can't thank you enough. We'll definitely have you back on the show. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you both so much, and your show is awesome. Watch it every week, and been posting about it. So I hope this can, reach out to one of your clients, and hopefully this helps them learn more about the mortgage process. And maybe hey, maybe I can be the person to buy this year, right? So,
absolutely,
yeah,
awesome. Well, thanks, Zach,
awesome.
And we'll talk soon. All right.
All right, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So that wraps up another episode 4 of the real estate special. And I hope you all enjoyed it. I thought Zach really brought the fire and brought some really great information. Tom, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, it's a great episode. Hopefully you guys like them. We're going to keep it going and can't wait to get more guests on here.
Absolutely. So make sure to follow us on all social media. Instagram, The Real Estate Special, on formerly known as Twitter, X, _RE_special. We are on TikTok at the RE Special, and we're on YouTube. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe on there. And that's just the title of this podcast, The Real Estate Special. So for Tom Stelzer, I am Dan Kiley, and we are signing off on the Real Estate Special. Stay tuned for next week's episode.